Hello. So by now, most of us have caught up with Boris's speech from last night and what the government's new proposals are. There was much expectation about an end to the lockdown and what the strategy was going to be. And perhaps you, like me, are a little confused this morning because it's not entirely clear what the strategy is and there are so many variables. It feeds into our anxiety. As I speak to people and the things that I see from friends online, there is still a lot of fear and anxiety around. We're not daft. We know that this new slogan, stay alert rather than stay home, doesn't mean it's now safe to go out and we're not likely to catch the virus. It just means that there is now capacity in the new Nightingale hospitals, if we do become ill, to deal with that, with the numbers who are likely to become ill. And so we're anxious. A number of my friends have said, I would rather stay at home. I would rather not be put into this position. I would rather not feel the stress and the pressure from my employer, from my children, to have to go out. I'm still frightened of where I am. Perhaps you know your Bible as well. Perhaps you know that line that appears more than any other in the Bible, do not fear. And perhaps for you, like me, that's one of the most difficult things at this time. Do not fear. Don't be afraid. The Apostle Paul, writing to the church in Corinth, wrote this, and this may be a familiar line to you. I decided to know nothing among you except Jesus Christ and Him crucified. So I decided to close my mind to everything else. That's how we read it. I decided to ignore all the dangers that were around me. But of course, that's not what Paul means at all. He knew the dangers that faced him in the Corinthian church. He knew that this was another community which had a big temple at its heart. He knew that there were many others who worshipped other gods and would think nothing of persecuting or even killing these new Christians. So what it says immediately after those famous words, and I came to you in weakness and in fear and in much trembling. So in actual fact, he hadn't closed his mind to the worrying things around him at all. But he had decided where he was going to look. And he was going to focus his eyes on Jesus and know him. In these difficult times, it's right that we don't close our mind and our hearts and our eyes to the fear that's around us. It's real. There is a real danger from this virus. Some people won't survive it, and some will become very ill and might even take a long, long time to recover. We must be alert, as Boris says. But we can also choose where we focus our attention. And perhaps as Christians, this is where our spiritual disciplines come in. Consciously spending time with God every day. Remembering to be thankful for the things that He's given us. Remembering to pour our heart out to Him, even if that's not in words. But also to keep our eyes fixed on Him. As Paul said, I resolved to know Jesus and Him crucified, to know what Jesus has done for me and what it means not just for me now, but for my eternity. Do not fear is a really difficult thing. We must be aware of the dangers around us and we must behave appropriately. But we mustn't be consumed by fear. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in His wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of His glory and grace. It's an old hymn. Perhaps today, as you face the new world of not quite lockdown and maybe an easing, depending what happens. You can turn your eyes upon Jesus and know him and what his crucifixion and resurrection means for us now, whilst not denying the fear in us and the danger around us. May the God who gave his Son, so that we may become close to him, that there may be no barrier between us and him, may that God live in your heart, settle your fears, and enable you to focus your eyes on Jesus and not on the dangers around you. That's my prayer for you today. Stay safe.